Here is an explanation for the answer to final exam, question number 27, in Alternative Energy Demystified, 2nd edition. If you have the printed book, please see page 315. For an alternative liquid motor vehicle fuel, the ratio of the energy available in a certain volume of conventional gasoline to the energy available in a certain volume of the alternative fuel using the same energy and volume units for both fuels is called what? Well, originally the volume units used were US gallons, and the energy units were British thermal units. So it became known as the gasoline gallon equivalent. In other words, for example, if you need 2 US gallons of alternative fuel to get the same amount of energy that you would get from 1 gallon of gasoline, then the gasoline gallon equivalent of that alternative fuel would be equal to 2. So let's just take a look at a sample calculation here of that sort of a situation. The gasoline gallon equivalent is sometimes abbreviated GGE. If you'll go back in the book to chapter 7, you'll find an example where it's abbreviated as G sub P. The energy in a certain amount of gasoline to the energy in the same volume, and that's important, volume, not mass, the same volume of alternative fuel gives you the gasoline gallon equivalent. Gasoline has about 1.14 times 10 to the 5th British thermal units per US gallon. So let's suppose that we have a fuel that instead, let's just suppose that it provides 1.00 times 10 to the 5th British thermal units per gallon. Now this is the alternative fuel. Then the GGE, or G sub P, it's easy enough to figure that out in our head. 1.14 divided by 1.00 would simply be 1.14. Pardon me. 1.14. Well, gasoline, as it turns out, has a pretty good density of energy per unit volume. It's pretty hard to find anything better, especially than good premium grade gasoline. That's why the alternative energy industry is having such a difficult time finding good alternatives to gasoline, and the old oil standard is hanging on so tenaciously. But once again, we go back and notice that gasoline gallon equivalent is the term that is still used today, even though you might as well call it gasoline liter equivalent, or you could call it gasoline, I don't know, cubic meter equivalent. Whichever, as long as you use the same energy and volume units, it doesn't matter whether you use US gallons and whether you use British thermal units. The ratio is what matters. It's the ratio that determines how good of an alternative fuel you actually have available.